good morning, and welcome to the Africa Weekly Talk. Today's subject on the docket is about Nigeria's 2023 presidential elections that was held on February 25th, 2023. And the Nigerian Electoral Commission announced its results on March the 1st, 2023, and declared the APC presidential candidate, Bola Tinubu, as the winner of the 2023 presidential election. He garnered about 36% of the vote, followed by the PDP presidential candidate, ATIKU ABUBAKAR, with 29% of the vote, and Peter Obi of the Labour Party with 25% of the vote. This election result has created a lot of controversy in Nigeria as I speak right now. There have been some demonstrations and there have been some violence, but not as big as, compared to the last election that was held some years back. So far, the situation has been tempered down, even though there's a lot of anger on the streets in Nigeria with regards to the results of this election. And out of that also, there has been some lawsuits that were filed by some states. I think about 6 states filed lawsuits, and apparently also the 6 states, some states like Adamawa State, Edo State, Delta State, Sokoto State, Bayelsa State, they all have dropped their lawsuits that were filed right after the election, contending that the election was fraudulent and all of that stuff. I don't know why they dropped their lawsuits. And surprisingly, Adamawa State is where Atiku Abubakar's home state is. So for them to even drop their lawsuits is something that's kind of surprising to me. But anyway, if the states have issues with the elections, I think that's the right way to go, to file the lawsuits so that the courts will decide whether to have a rerun or to rubber stamp the Electoral Commission's results that came out on March the 1st. Now, there's one thing that really baffles me about this election, especially with regards to the complaints about voter fraud, rigging, and all of that stuff. And having looked at the analysis of the election and looked at the polls that were coming out prior to the election, and especially with Peter Obi winning Lagos State, that was very, very surprising to me, and I think to a lot of people as well. We are taking into consideration that Lagos State was the state where Bola Tinubu was the governor. And from all accounts, he did a very good job as governor of Lagos State. So for Peter Obi to win Lagos State and then to have allegations of voter fraud and rigging by APC, Bola Tinubu's party, then it's kind of baffling in the sense that for any rigging or election fraud to take place, it has to be a preconceived idea. People don't rig elections at the day of the election. They have to plan it. So basically, you have to have a preconceived idea of what to do, where you are going to rig and all that stuff. Everything has to be in place. And like I said earlier, looking at Bola Tinubu's being former governor of Lagos, that Lagos is supposed to be the prime place if there's going to be any rigging by APC, which candidate Bola Tinubu, because at the end of the day, he was a governor there. And having been a governor, he knows all the ins and outs of everything in Lagos State. So if he has to rig, there's no better place to rig than Lagos State. That's the basic logic. He's not going to go rig at Anambra State. Definitely it's going to be Lagos State. So for Peter Obi to win Lagos State, I find it very baffling that Peter Obi won Lagos State and then people accusing Bola Tinubu of rigging in the elections. That particular situation is mind-boggling to me, because if he has to rig the election, Lagos State is the second biggest state behind Kano State. So if he has to rig the election, you assume that his home state, former governor of a state like Lagos, that is where he's going to rig, thereby claiming like what 3-1 margin of the votes down there. If that's going to be, if he's going to rig, but that's not what happened. Peter Obi won Lagos State, and I get it. Peter Obi can win Lagos State in the sense that Lagos is very diverse, with different groups, people from different places and all that stuff. Being the financial hub of Nigeria, you have different tribes, different religions, everything there. So that looks like a perfect place also for Peter Obi to win, in terms of the diversity of the place. But outside of all of that, still, if this election was really rigged by APC and Bola Tinubu's party, I think Lagos State would have been the prime place for them to do that. So with me personally, in my own personal opinion, yes, there might have been some discrepancies, ballot snatching, voter intimidation, some rigging, all over the place and all that stuff. I get all of that. But I don't really think that Bola Tinubu rigged this election to become the president of Nigeria. I don't think so. I think he won this election. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, especially when you look at Lagos State, like I stated earlier, and Peter Obi winning Lagos State, definitely there are going to be discrepancies. Definitely there are going to be fraud. Definitely there are going to be allegations going all over the place. It happens everywhere. Every elections in every country, there are always allegations of fraud, ballot snatching, voter intimidation, voters not getting access to their polling places and all that. Even a great democracy like the United States of America, it happens. I can go back, 20 years ago? Gore versus Bush, Gore people had to go to court in Florida. The last election, Trump versus Biden, Trump went to Pennsylvania, went to court in Pennsylvania, went to court in Arizona. So it happens. It happens. And by the right thing to do is to go to court if you think that, things didn't go the right way and things were not done the way they're supposed to be done. I get that. But at the end of the day, if I look at this Nigerian election that took place, yes, like I said, there might have been some voter intimidation, voter rigging, and all of that. But I also believe that Bola Tinubu won this election. He won this election not because he was the perfect candidate. He won it because it was the right timing for him to win this election. A case in point is this. Now, if you look at the makeup of the electorate of Nigeria at this time around, you had the APC, you have the PDP, and the Labour Party. These are the three main parties. Now, according to the Electoral Commission, Bola Tinubu's APC won 36% of the vote. ATIKU ABUBAKAR won 29% of the vote, he was second, and then Peter Obi won 25% of the vote. Now, APC happens also to be the incumbent party. So that is the party currently in government right now in Nigeria, holding the seat of government right now. So if you look at the PDP and Labour, these are the two parties trying to take over from APC. And unfortunately, these same two parties are basically attracting the same voters. So they are basically pulling voters away from each other. So what this did was it gave APC the opportunity to solidify their base. So all APC had to do is solidify its base. So APC supporters will solidify themselves and vote for APC. Whereas, PDP and Labour and the rest of the political parties are splitting votes. So they are splitting their votes, whilst APC is able to solidify its votes. So if you have PDP taking 29% of the vote, and you had Labour taking 25% of the vote, you're talking about how many? You're talking about 54% of the vote right there. You're talking about 54% of the vote. So if they are taking 54% of the vote, and then you have Bola Tinubu's party, APC, taking 36% of the vote, definitely Bola Tinubu is going to have the better shot at winning this election. And that's what happened. So yes, there might be some rigging here and there might be some discrepancies here and there and all that. I get all of that. By the end of the day, based on the polling that I saw and read, as well as the analysis that I have done, based on the information that I have, yes, I can understand why APC will win this election. Because you have two opposition parties, key opposition parties, splitting votes. And by them splitting their votes, that gives APC the opportunity to solidify their votes and then in the end, what? Win this election. And that is what happened. But if, let's say, this election was held between APC, Bola Tinubu and ATIKU ABUBAKAR, without Labour right behind PDP's heels, I bet you APC will never have won this election. Bola Tinubu will never have become a president-elect in Nigeria, because he would never have won this. Because PDP would have been able to pull a lot of the anger votes coming from Labour, more than APC would have pulled, and that would have put the PDP ahead of APC. But that wasn't the case, because at this time you had PDP pulling votes from Labour as well as Labour pulling votes from PDP. So they were splitting the votes of anger towards APC. So in this case, all APC had to do is solidify its base. And that's what they did. They're able to hold their base. And by holding their base, they're able to what? Win by getting 36%. They were not going to go more than what they got. And unfortunately also, I mean, you're talking about one of the most important elections in Nigerian history. That's what I felt. I thought this was one of the most important elections of Nigerian history because of the direction that Nigeria wants to move in this 21st century. You know, because if you look at Nigeria as a country, where it is right now, all Nigeria needs is good governance. And if Nigeria is able to get good governance in place, Nigeria is destined to become a better country and one of the most developed countries in the world in the future. But unfortunately, all we had was what? 25% voter turnout in Nigeria's election. Are you kidding me? 25% of voter turnout. I mean, even the last election that they had, about 2019, they had about 35% voter turnout. So you talk about 35% in the last election, and this election had 25%. So you talk about 10% less people voted in this election this year than the last previous election. I mean, and then we sit down and we complain. We complain about how bad things are, how corrupt the system is, how underdeveloped our countries are. And then we don't show up to vote. We don't participate in the so-called electoral democracies. The only way that we can also participate to help change our various African countries, we don't do that. And then we complain. I mean, how in the world can you have 25% of registered voters turn out to vote in a country's election? I mean, if you're going to have 25% of registered voters to turn up in your election, then you don't have nobody to blame. When your country is a mess, when your country is in this kind of horrible situation, you don't have nobody to blame. I get it. I understand it. I understand the anger when people talk about, oh, the system is corrupt, you know, they are going to rig the election, we know who is going to win and all that stuff. I get all of that anger. But we cannot have that mindset all the time by always having this notion that, oh, this because the system is corrupt, we are not going to participate in it. We are going to sit on the sidelines, thereby giving the corrupt parties the opportunity to what? To cling onto power all the time. Because at the end of the day, the people who are not voting because they believe that the system is corrupt are giving the corrupt parties the opportunity to do what? To still cling onto power. So they are the ones who are always going to be making decisions for all of you guys down there. So you don't have nobody to blame, but to blame yourselves if you didn't vote and if you are sitting on the sidelines just because you think that, oh, the system is corrupt and your vote wouldn't count. No, I get it. The system is corrupt. I understand that. It's not perfect. But at the end of the day, you have to participate in it. You have to let your anger show by going out there and voting for the one that you think is going to bring change to your systems. Because it is only going to be, change is only going to come by you participating in the process. But by sitting on the sidelines, you're not going to have any change. So though for you, those guys who are sitting on the sidelines, who have been complaining about how poor your countries are, how bad things are, how corrupt the system is, and all of that. And by the same token, not showing up to vote, you are the ones contributing to the very problems you are complaining about. That is the saddest of it all. I mean, you're not going to have, let's say, 70%, voter turnout and all that stuff. I get it. Even America has about 60-something% turnout, which is also low. But at least it is not that bad. I mean, 60-something% is not that bad. I mean, if you can have at least even 45%. But we're talking about what? 25% voter turnout. That is abysmal. That is disgraceful. And I mean, come on. 25% of people showing up to vote in a very serious election like this? Election that is going to show the direction that this country is going to move in, whether it's going to move forward or move backwards. And you just have 25% of registered voters showing up to vote. Man, you don't have nobody to blame by yourselves. I'm sorry. You cannot blame nobody by ourselves if things are not going right in our various African countries. And we have to look at all these things. We have to look at these things. I mean, there's a lot of anger on the streets. And I bet you some of these people protesting on the streets even didn't vote. I mean, they didn't even vote. But they said that they're going to go on the street and protest. That, I mean, these people, this party won and their party lost and their candidate lost and all of that. But meanwhile, they didn't even show up to vote. I mean, so me personally, in my own personal opinion, I think this election, yes, there might have been some fraudulent issues, some discrepancies here and there, maybe ballot snatching and all of that. And also the allegations that the Electoral Commission did not report the elections as supposed to by the law to do, and all of that. Yes, there have been some lawsuits filed. Hopefully, I mean, that will go through the court process, and eventually the court will decide whether to hold the election again or whether to agree with the electoral results. But I personally believe that Bola Tinubu won this election. He won this election based on the analysis and based on what I just said. Because there's no way he's going to lose this election if you have two key parties, the PDP and Labour, all pulling votes from each other. They are splitting that vote. And by them splitting these votes, that gives the APC the opportunity to hang on to its base and win this election. And apparently, I think that's what happened. So I don't really think there was that much rigging that put him there. No, I think he won this election based on splitting of votes by PDP and Labour. But all is not lost. All is not lost, especially if you look at Peter Obi. Peter Obi is what? 61 years old. He's still young. So the best thing is, tell his voters to just calm down. We're going to use the courts. Whatever we believe went wrong, we're going to file lawsuits and let the court decide on that. And the next 4 years or whatever, he can come back and fight hard. But for him and other parties to be able to win elections, they also have to convince the Nigerian citizens that, look, we cannot have 25% of our fellow citizens, registered voters, showing up to vote in a country of over 200-something million people. Give me a break. Give me a break. 25%, that's disgraceful. So next time, if we really want to change the direction of our various African countries, then yes, we have corruption. Yes, we have problems. We have election fraud and all that stuff. But the only way to change those problems is by using the only tool that we have. The only tool we have is to go and vote for the people that we believe will do the right thing or will bring changes that are needed in our various African countries. And by voting, that is the only way we can do that. We cannot just sit on the sidelines and keep talking and complaining about poverty and fraud and corruption and all that stuff, chronic capitalism and all that stuff, and at the same time, not show up to do our own duty of voting to put in place the people that we believe will bring changes to our various African countries. If we don't do that, then I'm sorry. We're not going to get nowhere. We're not going to bring any change. We're still going to be complaining every damn time, because at the end of the day, we are not participating in the very process that is going to bring about these changes that are needed. So to my fellow Nigerians, we got to wake up. Yes, we might not like the election results. Myself, I'm disappointed because that was not my choice. My choice didn't win. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to respect the person who won the presidential election, because I believe he won the election based on my analysis. But would I have preferred somebody else? Yes, I would have preferred somebody else, because I wanted the whole system to be shaken up. I wanted a new direction. I wanted a new face. I don't want these old status quo systems where every time you have the same people in charge. And I wanted a new face, fresh ideas to change and shake up the system. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was looking for. But I didn't get it. My candidate didn't win. The person I would have preferred didn't win. But by the same token, I'm going to respect Bola Tinubu as the president of Nigeria, if he's really sworn in as the president of Nigeria. Because from all analysis, when he was a governor of Lagos, he did very well also. So hopefully he's going to bring the necessary changes. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be with the same status quo, same old stuff that has been going on for the past years. Hopefully he's going to enact some changes, and hopefully he will bring in some new ideas that will move Nigeria into the 21st century as a developed African country and lead the way for the rest of Africa. So hopefully also there won't be that much violence. People will respect the election results and live by it. And if they want to see changes, then they have to start participating in the process, because that is the only process you have right now. There's no other process but to go out there and vote for what you believe. But if you're not going to do that, I'm sorry. You can't sit down there and complain, because you are not complaining to nobody but to yourself. Because for you to change things, that is the only way you can change, is by voting. So thank you guys, fellas, for listening. If it's Sunday, it's the Africa Weekly Talk. God bless you guys, and peace and love.